Hey, welcome back to Almost Machining. I'm Phil, and what we're looking at here are the parts for me to be able to add a filter to a new coolant tank for the surface grinder. I could probably use it on other machines, but for right now it's going to be just for the surface grinder. It's going to start off with a garbage can. I'm going to cut a hole in the bottom of this, and through that hole I'm going to mount this piece. Is going to poke up through the bottom of the hole, and this cap is going to come on over the top of it, and it's going to seal it up against the bottom of the can, the first can. And then this pipe will go into that end, and then on the other end I'll have this so that I can push it on to hold the filter in a vertical position inside of that tank. Now with that, what I expect to have happen is this is going to trap a good portion of the larger particles. It's not going to get all the small ones, and that's okay. I'll have a little bit of settling that'll happen, and I think that's going to be just fine. So what I'll do is I'll start off with getting the other can up here. We'll get the hole cut in it, get this piece mounted inside of there, and that's pretty much all the work other than cutting this particular pipe to length. It's a 1.5 inch standard Schedule 40 PVC pipe, and I'll also drill some holes along the side of it so that once the water enters the media, it can drain down through this piece and into where I have the small pump. So my thinking here is that if I prepare the hole to be roughly in the center, all the coolant has an opportunity to flow at least around the filter, whereas if I offset it to one of the sides, it may not use one of the sides. And this, I'm setting this up so that I can remove the filter while the sediment is in the bottom of this tank before it goes on to the next tank. Let's pick a spot, roughly draw this out. And now I'm just going to use an X-Acto blade and trim that out. I don't want to go too terribly much larger. So if I cut basically on the inner line of the Sharpie marker, should be okay. A shout out to Stan at Bar Z Industrial for hosting the Summer Bash. That was such a great time. I'm glad I got to meet a lot of people, interact with folks, help out where I was able to. It was fantastic. Had a great time. And I hope everyone that was able to attend and watch also did too. I'm working on getting some stickers made. So I have a lot of stickers to put up, and there's some other things I'd like to do as well. So now we've got a hole in the bottom of this can. Looks like I did pretty good. There's not much play there. Now this is that other piece that's going to go inside. I'm just going to kind of fit it up, see how that kind of feels. I did consider putting an extra heavy bottom on this, but I want to see how this goes first. So it does have some looseness, and that's okay. I don't know if I want to glue it, if I'm just going to use primer, or if I should go ahead and trim this down just a little bit so that it'll fit all the way together. I really don't like gluing PVC because once you do, it's kind of forever. Let me get this cleaned up so that it pushes together nicely. Alright, after a few minutes of some sanding, I put some primer inside of here. I got just a nice fit. If I want to glue this, I can glue it. So, this piece goes here, and the other piece slides over just like that. I think I will glue this because I'm happy. It's probably going to fall apart, but that's cool. So this is how it's looking at the bottom of this can right here. And then right inside there, just like that, it's going to sit like that. And then that filter is going to go around that nozzle, coming out with the other pipe kind of pulling it all together. You know, I don't need to tighten that because I may just use a rod. Let's go ahead and glue that in place. Hit it with the glue, and whatever little bits of water leak past that area, I'm not going to be disappointed with them. It's about 1,000 degrees here today in the Valley of the Sun. Push and a little twist. Hold. Now that's in there. Now what I want to do is stand this up. Let's get the filter out. It's just a pool filter. I figure if these things can catch plankton, they'll catch kind of the bigger grinding particles. And if I want to sleeve it, I can sleeve it, I can bag it, I can do whatever I need to do in the interim, or I can add additional filters inside of it, or where it drops in. So I catch big stuff here, and it drips down into the bottom tank where it catches additional pieces, or larger pieces, or smaller pieces. So this is going to go in here. So on that end piece, it's not perfect and it can move around. That's fine. That's what I was kind of after. So way up there now, that's what we have. And then that's where the PVC pipe is going to kind of fit in. And this is going to allow all of that. Well, did I do something wrong? No. Let's get this down on the floor. We can have a different look at it. Now what we have, kind of get an idea here as to how this is going to work, is that the coolant from the tank is going to come in somewhere around here. It'll fill up into this tank, pass through the filter media, enter this pipe, go down through the bottom, and then it's going to go into this tank. Now, inside of this tank is where I'll have the coolant pump down at the bottom, and this will then sit in here like that. I think that that's going to work out. It does seem a little bit flimsy wonky right here, and of course I need to measure off where this piece is going to go, or leave it and then use a screw and pull it together so that all those pieces kind of fit together nice and tight. It's not going to be a perfect seal, but the purpose is to not have it do what it was doing before. I had this old pretzel bin with holes on the side, and it would drain into here, and I had a bunch of cloth fabric to use as a catch-all, and then it would fill up and then settle some and then drain out through these holes back into a 5-gallon bucket. So I've definitely increased my volume here over using something like this. And now would be the time to get this measurement and cut this and see how well this fits on there. Okay, so I ran to the store and I had to buy a new piece of 3/8/16 all rod, and I had this piece of steel that I cut out for something else. So I welded a nut in place on there, and then I cut this bar off with the hacksaw, drilled a hole in it, and brought it down to about the place where the other unit will sit on top of there. But yeah, so the other piece is going to kind of sit down on top of this, and then that'll allow for the filter to go. So there's one of these basically on the other side, and the filter then will go over And then at the top, I can tighten that down and compress that down and get a good compression fitting. And this will help support the weight of whatever water ends up in that tank. I think I'm only going to fill it up about halfway full is what that's going to end up being. We'll see how that goes. But the next steps are going to be modifying this piece of pipe to have water holes in it. So there's I probably want to have a minimum hole and then almost like another top set of holes so that it does allow filtration to go through and rise up and keep the filter for the most part wet, and then that drain back into the bottom tank to be pumped back into the grinder. So I'll do that and then we'll put this together. So I completed drilling several sets of holes in the pipe. It's 4 all the way through and then 3 all the way through, so that as the water comes out, it'll start to trickle through these. I don't really want a whole lot of flow, and I noticed that a 2-inch pipe fits nicely over the top of this, so I can kind of make a sleeve or make some plugs if I need to, if I find that I don't have enough flow going through there. So let's take a look at how this is all going to go together. This part with the clamp and the other piece, it's a little loose. We'll tighten up on the base. I don't have much strength in my right arm still. I kind of tennis elbow from rewinding that motor. So this will go in here like this. And then, now this can, I'd like to be able to scoot the can over, and these ridges right here, they kind of get in the way, so I'm going to cut those off real quick. I can slide this all the way over against the edge. And that bottom piece, it's going to line up in such a way that, and then the shaft goes on. That's our drain shaft. And the holes come up to about here in the can, which is pretty nice. So down along the bottom is the straight bar, which gives us can force. I guess I can push right here. Like pushing down on that is putting all the load into the base or the floor. And then the filter slides on. And then this piece goes on. Now, what I'd like to do, and I haven't built it yet, is have this bar kind of go out, and then with clamps that go down and grab the bottom of the big tank so that the little tank doesn't want to lift up, if ever that be the case. It try to lift that up. So just and that'll be the next thing that I'm going to build, is get this piece cut and then use these as little side straps where it goes down and then bends over with a little U-hook to grab on the side. I'll just deform the can and let it pop back up to where it grabs on that side and pulls up a little bit, and then tighten the whole thing down. So here's what it's going to look like with it tightened down. And this gives us the whole picture without having the clamps put on yet, of how all that's going to seal up. That's it. So what I have is these cones are pressing on the inside of the filter, which the only way now for water to get in is for it to come up through the media into the center hole, up to where the drain holes are, down and into the other tank where I'll have my pump. And this will allow me to add different types of pumps. If I want to put a larger pump in, I can do that. If I find that I need a shorter filter, or if I need to take this off, flip it over the other way, I can take it off, flip it over, or I can wash the grit out. Most of the grit is just sand. My yard is sand, and so as long as I'm not doing that a lot, it's probably not going to be a problem. But I feel really confident that this will do well. And like I said, if I needed a different filter media, I could probably get away with this for a while and then find another sleeve to put inside, or adapt something or change this up completely. The total cost here right now is, I don't know, it's pushing 70 bucks I think for all of this, the 2 cans, the all rod, and the scrap steel I had lying around. So let me get that other piece made, that clamp that goes around the top, and then we'll put some water in it and give it a try. So with some patience and effort, I have created this piece right here. It has a sliding hole. It has these 2 bars that go down. I had to bend them out a little bit. And these little feet to wrap around the sides of the other tank. Let's get this on there. So right now it pulls up and grabs a hold of everything. And that will allow me to tighten this down. Probably not supposed to spin like that. There we go. So now what I have is I have the 2 pieces pulling together, locking the angle pieces onto the filter, keeping it tight so there's no water that's going to flow on the underside through there. And then now if the inner tank wants to try and lift up, it's not going to be able to lift up. I can now lift the whole system from the inner tank. And let's get this area over there where this is going to live cleaned up, and we'll fill it up with coolant. So I've added a little bit of water to the blue tank, which is now draining into the gray tank just like it should. And it's got a pretty good flow right now, but I'm going to keep adding this up. Here's the pump I use for now, and that flows up to the top of the tank, and then I use that bottle. It has some holes punched in it so that the return line goes back and into that bottle to kind of slow that down, and the line going back up to the top of the machine goes there. And then I have a Kinetic Precision's NOS right there to direct my coolant flow. I really like that. So let me get this filled up and we'll get it turned on. Okay, I have the return line going down into the bottle. Both the water levels have equalized. And the one thing that I have noticed is I'm going to have to build I would imagine, some kind of steel holder to push this back together so that the tank doesn't get too large. I'm going to go ahead and get the grinder plugged in, and we'll see how it flows. Alright, the machine's plugged in. Just get it turned on. Here's our coolant. Right now it's just water. I have to add the trim salt to it. That's not bad performance coming out of the nozzle, considering I don't have a very high flow pump on this machine. And the little bubbles coming up from there, and the water's then passing through the filter media and then down through the bottom of the tank in the center hole and returning over to the pump area. I'm pleased with this. I'll get to doing some of those in the near future. I've got a couple people that have asked for some, and I'm going to take care of them. So it's been a hot moment since we last talked about the tank, and I know the video's it's taken a while to get this out, but to take a look at the outside, what the changes I made is I made a little base to go around the bottom, and then I welded these bars up into it to keep the size conformed. I have yet to go around the outside, but these are enough to keep it from bulging out, which has been really nice. You know, we're not having that change in the size of the tank shape. And here's the filter condition. You can see the materials kind of built up on it down below. It's been working really, really well. Anyway, thank you for watching. Look forward for more.